Hi everyone, it's me, Sandy Cruz of Sandy K Nutrition, Health and Lifestyle Queen. For years now, I've been bringing to you conversations about wellness from incredible guests from all over the world. Discover a fresh take on healthy living for midlife and beyond, one that embraces balance and reason without letting only science dictate every aspect of our wellness. Join me and my guests as we explore ways that we can age gracefully with in-depth conversations about the thyroid, about hormones, and other alternative wellness options for you and your family. True wellness nurtures a healthy body, mind, spirit, and soul. And we cover all of these essential aspects to help you live a balanced, joyful life. Be sure to follow my show, rate it, review it, and share it. Always remember, my friends, balanced living works. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Sandy K Nutrition, Health and Lifestyle Queen. Today, I'm going to talk to you all about quantum clearing. This is all about how homes, your lineage, and your energy field can affect you in your life. This is a really different topic from what I've been recording about lately. And most of you who follow me know I'm all about science and soul. And I don't believe that we can age well without having a balance of all of it: body, mind, spirit, soul. We can't just look at science alone and optimize our wellness as we age. So, this is a very different topic. And of course, I want to make sure that I include all the important aspects so that you don't look at me and think, she's gone off the rails. I do believe that the world is way more receptive to this kind of thing, and I'm going to go deep on all of it. So, my show, this one, on quantum clearing, is very different from anything that you're going to see out there right now. Most podcasts that talk about this kind of stuff talk about energy work in one of two different ways: either all science or and no soul, or all esoteric and no science. That's very common. So all science and no soul is more dismissive, reductionist, and it ignores the unseen. And I saw a post the other day and I thought it was so interesting about how so many different things from the past that were dismissed as woo, which, that's kind of a derogatory word in and of itself. If somebody calls you woo woo or woo, I've been called that before in a world of science people. And I'm like, yeah, that's who I am. And I don't think there's anything wrong with it. So science tends to be more leaning that way. And then there's the esoteric and no science, which can be kind of vague and symbolic and more ungrounded. So this show is going to marry the science, the soul, and the esoteric, as much science as I can. Okay. So I will be talking about quantum clearing of your home, your lineage, and your own energy field. And this is not about saging or smudging your home or, like with sounds or scents or any of that. This is not what this is about. This is more about literal field recognition. Let's go there. The first thing that you might say is like, why would I need this? What would be the whole point of this? So there are signs in your home and there are signs in your life that you're going to want to look at. So when you walk into your home, Does it feel like there's a heaviness in your home that doesn't lift? You walk into certain rooms and they kind of feel a little off, like really cold, and there's no real reason for it, other than obviously your HVAC, right? If you know that there's an issue with your HVAC versus why is this room cold when it never used to be? That's another sign. Sleep disturbances, again, we can't dismiss the things that are scientific on what might cause sleep disturbances, like menopause, for example. Can't dismiss that. Pets that react to corners that are empty and they're, whatever, staring into a corner or barking at nothing. That's another possible sign. Plants dying. And that happened to me. So I've had my home cleared, I've had my energy field cleared, and I will talk a little bit about that. I'm not going to give you all of my personal reasons, but there were reasons that I did this. And my plants are a massive, massive thing. I'm like, I've had these plants forever. I've never changed the way in which I cared for them, but they're dying. Like, what is going on? Nothing's changed. I haven't moved them. Like, what? Electronics glitching. So, most of the homes now have LED lights. They last forever. Pot lights, that are LED. Really, gone are the days when lights would glitch with the old, uh, God, I don't even remember what they're called, but you know what I mean, the old style lights. Those used to flicker all the time. Now it's very rare. So if all of a sudden you've got electronics that are glitching, lights that are flickering, but they're not burnt out, like there's some weird stuff going on. The general feeling of being drained in your own home, like you never want to be home and you always want to escape the home. Those are signs that there's something off. So, signs in your life: a slow, chronic down spiraling. It's like everything's going wrong in your life. Your relationship issues that intensify without something really there, concrete, causing it. Finances crumbling despite effort. So you're doing everything you can, and it's like you're just never falling into an opportunity in your life despite all your efforts. Okay, there you go. Opportunities that are non existent. It's like they just never show up for you. You're invisible to opportunities. You feel blocked or bypassed all the time. Repeating setbacks, feeling like you're a magnet for bad luck. I mean, I've seen that many, many times, haven't you? A heaviness that follows you and a sense of interference. So, your intuition never take away how you feel. If you feel like, Jesus, this is really off. Like, what's going on? Why is everything that's negative following me? I'm doing all the right things. I'm doing everything that I should be doing, but everything negative keeps following me, whether that's in your health. Oh, I'm going to talk about that next. Signs in your health: unexplained fatigue, emotional volatility, sudden anxiety, chronic flare ups, disconnection from the self. Disconnection from the self is the biggest one here because the facts are a lot of these things like anxiety and being emotional and all of that, you can also explain that through midlife changes in hormones, right? So I always say don't dismiss health problems. Always check that out with your practitioner who knows you and who is qualified, of course. Signs in the relationship: recurring conflict for no reason. It's like that spiraling conflict that keeps going around and around. Disproportionate breakdowns. You're like, why am I losing my shit? What is happening to me? Generational repetition. I'm going to get more into generational repetition. And when you see that something happened to your mom and your grandmother. And you're like, oh, interesting. These same issues also happened generations before me. That's something to take note of. So there's always going to be physiology that can come into play here. And I already said that. Don't ignore health problems. Here is where I'm going to talk about the lineage layer, like I was just saying. So consider these like family curses and their quantum patterns. Okay. So a curse is not a superstition, it is a quantum imprint or a distortion in a family's informational field. We have the power to break generational imprints. We have that within us, but often we don't know how to clear it, which is why you might get somebody to help you with this. Most most people do need help with this. So origins could be ancestral trauma, emotional patterns that hardened into energetic patterns, attachments or interference, so unprocessed grief or betrayal, generational collapse cycles, intentional harm. Listen, I come from a family that, uh, they were old farmers. They had a lot of superstitions. And when I listen to some of the stories that my mom and dad tell me from Croatia, living on the farm and, whatever it would be like the 1940s, really interesting stories. And you can call them stories or you can call them whatever, curses. So, how these lineage layers and family curses can show up, men collapsing at the same age. So, when you see a man, he dies at 55. You see his grandfather dies around the same age. You see a great grandfather that dies around the same age. And then you go, okay, well, how there's such a thing as epigenetics. We're not necessarily our genes unless you have some sort of a real chronic disease. We can change a lot on how we live and how long we live. So when you see that kind of thing, it's a good time to just kind of assess and go, that's interesting. Women losing themselves in relationships, money rising and falling in predictable cycles, marriages failing the same way, health issues repeating, emotional wounds echoing across generations. This is not symbolic. This is quantum. I'm going to pause here for a second and give you an example. You see this happen all the time. You see one mom who was a teen mom, suffered through all kinds of financial issues, relationship issues, and then you see her child go through the exact same thing. And you wonder, is this learned or is this some sort of a family lineage layer, quantum layer that's happening, that these patterns are repeating? So let's talk a little bit about what quantum actually is. What is quantum? Because for a lot of people, this is newer terminology. So I'm going to speak in terms of Einstein and Tesla, which I think almost everybody knows who that is. So Einstein always said that matter is energy. The field is the sole governing energy of the particle. So the invisible field is what determines the physical reality. Now let's look at Tesla. Tesla would say, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. Change the frequency, change the outcome. What if you can't change that frequency? What if it is family, generational, quantum, curses, traumas, whatever it is? What if? And you don't know how to change it. So, my definition is the quantum is the informational field beneath the physical reality. It holds. It holds the ancestral memory, the emotional residue, the trauma, the patterns, the timelines, the interference, and the potential. And when that field is distorted, life can be distorted. When the field is reorganized, then life can reorganize. So quantum clearing changes that field beneath the problem. Okay. And by changing, we're talking about clearing. So let's talk a little bit about Reiki versus quantum healing. A lot of people know what Reiki therapy is, but not a lot of people understand quantum. I think I did a pretty good job of explaining how that works. So, Reiki is when the practitioner channels energy into you, whatever it is that you're trying to resolve. So, it works on that biofield, calms the nervous system, supports emotional regulation, and it can be supportive. But it is all dependent on the practitioner, the trust, and your energy behind it. Back when Reiki, the first time I experienced Reiki, I was 40 years old. It was when my daughter was diagnosed with cancer. I'm 56 now. So I've always kind of done this energy work well beyond or before it became trendy because I really resonate with energy work and I'm a big believer in energy and your energy field. So this was when my daughter was diagnosed with cancer. And I went to a yoga studio. At the same time, some of you might know this story. I broke my foot 2 days before my daughter was diagnosed with cancer. It was not easy times. And I wanted to do yoga so that I can kind of calm my mind. I was trying any which way to figure it out. And I had a practitioner who was teaching me yoga. And then she said, "Do you want me to try Reiki on you?" I'm like, not sure what that is, but okay. She did, and she said it was almost as though I felt dead inside, which during that time I felt like I was. And she couldn't get a read on me, and that's because my higher self was closed off. It wouldn't allow it. So this is why Reiki is more of like the older energy because I've talked about this. The power lies within us to allow it. When we are in a state of allowance, then so much healing can take place because our higher self is the one that is in control, not a practitioner. So Reiki does not reorganize the quantum field, dissolve lineage patterns, repair timelines, clear entities. I know some of you might be like, entities, what? Just keep listening. Release the trauma in the land of your home, restructure a home's field. Now, the quantum works on the informational field. So you don't physically need to have a practitioner come into your home. It dissolves distortions, clears attachments, it releases ancestral imprints, repairs the timelines, and puts you on a better timeline. You hear about timelines all the time now, all the time. I'm using time too much. It stabilizes the field and it shifts the architecture beneath your life. So nothing is pushed or forced, and your higher self does the reorganizing. So Reiki might soothe the surface, but quantum is what repairs the blueprint. Your home is a living field. The home absorbs emotional and energetic residue. It holds memory. It mirrors the occupants. Your nervous system reads the field instantly. And sometimes the home is holding stories that aren't yours. There was a time I was really into feng shui. And the reason I got into feng shui was because I felt like my home was cursed and I didn't know what to do to fix the energy. So in 2010, my daughter was diagnosed with cancer. She's fine now, by the way, healthy, vibrant, beautiful. 2011, exactly 1 year later, I was diagnosed with thyroid cancer. I had a total thyroidectomy. This is why I do what I do now, by the way. And then 2012, my husband coded in hospital. And I was like, damn, my house is cursed. So I started to practice feng shui, and there's nothing wrong with having a practice that you feel helps to clear energy. I'm actually Catholic born and raised. I'm not really a religious person, but I am a very spiritual person. And during that time, I loved the priest of the church. And so I would let him come in and cleanse our home with holy water. And then the priest changed and I didn't like the new priest. And I didn't like his energy. So I stopped doing it. So really a lot of it is the belief that you hold. I regularly smudge my home. I would cleanse my home with Palo Santo or sage or whatever. Even singing bowls. I have singing bowls, so through sound, there's a lot, but sometimes it's not enough. So I've done so much energy work since 2010. And when I discovered this, it's a whole other dimension, let's just say. So I'm going to talk about why you might want to clear your own field first. As you know, I believe in a holistic practice. And sometimes you might want to do your own energy field first before you do your home. So, not everyone necessarily needs a personal clearing. Sometimes the home is the only issue, and sometimes the land is the only issue. Sometimes the lineage is the issue. Sometimes you may want this cleared when you move into a new home. So that's a perfect example of when clearing only the home might pertain. You're moving into a new house, you're like, damn, what happened in this home? Right? So you might need a personal clearing first when your field is imprinting onto the home or into the home. Your emotional residue is saturating the space. Your lineage patterns are overriding the home's instability or stability. I should say stability. Your attachments anchor the distortion, and your home keeps reabsorbing what you're carrying. You see, if I go back to that situation way back when my daughter was diagnosed with cancer, that's where it all kind of began and my exploration of energy began. I was trying to ensure that I cleared all the energy. Since then, I stopped doing feng shui. I stopped giving power to objects and things and belief systems that take away the power that I hold within myself. And I'm not shaming you if you still do feng shui. You do whatever works for you. So, signs that you personally might need a clearing, not just your home, is that you feel off everywhere. Heaviness follows you. That's big. Heaviness follows you. You're never receiving opportunities. It's like chronic bad luck. You're drained in multiple environments. You have emotional instability, waves of fear, sadness, anger that aren't you. Reactions that don't match the moment, disconnection from self, numbness, fogginess, difficulty making decisions, intrusive thoughts, and these looping patterns that just never really end, looping fears. And remember, you could also be in an entanglement with somebody in your home. That's something else to consider. If you're married, if you live with somebody, it could all be entangled. So you may both need to be cleared. Interference in your own field, carrying emotions that aren't yours. See, that goes back to your partner. The home clearing doesn't hold. Let's say you go, "Oh, I'm fine," and you do the home clearing, but then things and feelings remain or build up again. And then that pattern returns. So lineage patterns are active, repeating family cycles. So back to what I was saying at the beginning, if you've got all these family cycles that keep repeating, this may be a sign that you may need to be cleared first. Emotional echoes, inherited collapse patterns. So, okay, I've given you all the foundation of this discussion. Now, what happens during a quantum home clearing? First of all, you need to leave. And the reason you need to leave is because you might be very energetically tied, and the feelings, if you stay in, could be extremely uncomfortable. So, number one, the field opens. The practitioner connects the home's energetic architecture, and the home reveals history, imprints, distortions. What often happens, you weren't, my home was built on land. God knows what happened on this land. Who knows how much trauma there's been in this on this property? Like, who knows? You can't possibly know the history unless, you can go wait still. It's almost impossible to know the entire history. So after the field is opened, lost souls are guided back into the light. I know that sounds like, whoa, what do you mean? So fragments of consciousness, emotional residues, unresolved human experiences, they're located, acknowledged, guided, and then released back into the light. Entities and dense constructs are dissolved. So, fear based structures, parasitic patterns, and attachments to you are dissolved. And they're prevented from reattaching. Land clearing. So, land, as I was saying, land holds trauma, death, battles, grief. Trauma is released into the soil of where I know this goes really deep, you guys, but this is the quantum field. The land is reconnected to Earth's natural grid. There is a timeline repair that happens. Homes can sit on fractured and collapsed timelines. So, timelines that are just not ideal. Distorted timelines are identified. The home is lifted out of it. The field is anchored onto coherent timeline. And you could have a feeling that you moved without even moving. There is a structural reorganization. So I don't know if you guys ever would smudge your home. You know how they always say that corners can hold a lot of energy that are just like there's spaces that are never really cleared. So the corners stop holding density. The air in your home feels lighter, the emotional residue dissolves, and the home becomes responsive. So there's something called the crystalline grid. I'd never heard of it until I learned about this. There is an activation of the crystalline grid. It connects the home to a high frequency crystalline network. So it's a self sustaining purification loop. So you don't have to go through this again. Anybody who buys your house after this is so lucky, let me just say. This prevents old patterns from reattaching, it strengthens boundaries, and it amplifies clarity and intuition, even for the person, well, mostly for the people that live there. This is think of it as an operating system upgrade in the quantum field. It's so cool. Think of your home as being put on a new or better timeline. So during a clearing, this is what people feel often, and you don't have to be there. Tingling, warmth, waves of emotion, clarity, presence, a shift in the air, space opening. So I can tell you this from personal experience. About a half hour left of the clearing. It takes about 2 hours depending on your situation. It could be different for you and different depending on your home. But mine took 2 hours. And in the last, there was a half hour left. I got literally, for no reason whatsoever, this sudden wave of inspiration out of nowhere. It just hit me. And it was while my home was being cleared. And another person in my home that lives with me, they felt like a wave of like frigid cold air, like out of nowhere. So you might get these weird feelings depending on how attached you are to the space. So then there's an integration phase. Once this happens, you may feel tired, neutral, spacious. You might feel a little bit sensitive. You will all of a sudden, you will likely become more aware of what doesn't belong to you in your life, in your space. It's really cool. You also become less tolerant of chaos. You just kind of like, yeah, I'm just not interested. And you may have some emotional echoes because remember, your nervous system finally has the space, and old triggers might rise temporarily as the body begins to thaw. So the patterns that were formed under this stressful situation might briefly reappear, but it's not regression, it's a release. So don't worry. And then how do you live in your space once you've been cleared, once your home's been cleared? I've had all of it done, you guys. So, what will happen is certain people will feel uncomfortable coming to your home. Your home becomes more difficult to find for darker energies. I'm going to give you an amazing example here. And you could say, whatever, this is by chance. You could say whatever you want, but I resonate with this. So our snowblower here in Canada, we had massive snow. Now that I'm recording it, it was last weekend. Massive snow, like the most. I don't think I've ever seen this much snow fall all at once. And I said to my husband, I'm like, damn, I'd really like to finally get this snowblower fixed. 2 years I've been trying to get it fixed. It's a large snowblower, so it's not easy to transport. And I think the quote I got to transport it and get it fixed was like $300. Like, that's a lot. Then I had 2 or 3 people that I contacted through like a local community group, never showed, never responded back. I'm like, what's going on? It's like I'm invisible to anything that's like positive or good. Like, come on, somebody come fix my snowblower. So then, since this was literally about 1 week after I had my house cleared, so I had this done a couple weeks ago, and I messaged somebody I saw in a community group, and I'm thinking, okay, this guy's probably not going to show up. Probably be the same thing, or he'll want to charge like a small fortune for coming out, like $500. So he didn't show up the first day, and the second day, he showed up in the snowstorm. Not only did this guy work outside of my garage so that in the snowstorm, he's wearing snow pants, he took my entire snowblower apart on my driveway in the middle of the snowstorm, took it apart, put it all back together, brought me new clean gas, drained all the old gas, tuned it up entirely for $100. Got it working. It's never run this smoothly, at least not since I can remember. So that's one example. So your home and you become less visible to people who are not on that same timeline as you are. So it's not necessarily saying that they're darker, but yeah, you're more invisible to darker energies. It's so powerful That's one example. There's more, but I'm not going to give you my whole life story. You'll also find that arguments just don't land. Like all of a sudden, you might start like a little argument with your kid or your spouse, and then poof, it's like it's gone. Whereas normally, people would have arguments with their spouse and that last like for 2 days. They don't land anymore in your home. Emotional dumping doesn't stick. The home rejects chaos. And so do you if you have your personal field cleared as well. Your intuition becomes louder, meaning you can really make better decisions, better choices because you're like, yeah, that doesn't resonate. You know it. Instead of making bad decision after bad decision after bad decision, your boundaries become stronger. So you may be like, that person's got a weird energy. I don't think I don't really resonate with them anymore. And whatever they do, it doesn't bother me anymore either. They just have no effect on my life. So think of it as they're on a different timeline than you. So it just no longer connects. It's like you don't connect anymore. So those are the big positive effects after you have your home cleared. And again, if it applies after you're cleared. So I'm going to close this off. The real truth and your differentiator. So your home holds what you've survived. Your land holds much more that you aren't even aware of. Your lineage holds what your ancestors couldn't resolve. Okay? Your body holds what your nervous system couldn't process. And the quantum clearing shifts all of it. So, it doesn't erase the fact that my child had cancer, that I had cancer. Those are still there. But my body is no longer holding that. It's not holding that nervous system response. Mind you, I've done a lot of personal work as well. So quantum clearing shifts all of it. So most shows will talk about this as either just energy or just psychology, the whole trauma piece. But my show and my work, it sits in the middle of real physics, real nervous system, real esoteric mechanics. And I don't think that any of this is deniable. So, the takeaway: your body is your first intuitive instrument. Always listen to that. You hold so much power within you. Don't ever forget that. So ask yourself, what does this space feel like in my body? And your awareness in and of itself will begin that clearing and that process. And then you may need to take it further. So I have to acknowledge who introduced me to this work, who did this work. My higher self allowed it to happen. Remember, I always say that it's always you and your allowance that makes things happen. Her name is Brenda Ferrugia. I am not getting paid a penny from her to talk about her in this. I am going to say I have so much gratitude for her clarity, her integrity, her depth, her understanding of this work, and her ability to help others. And I have to say this entire conversation would never happen had it not been for her. And I've known her for a long time, and I truly advocate for her work. So I will have her information in this podcast outline if any of this that I've spoken about today resonates with you. She's your girl, and she's the real deal. So, my final closing line: your home is a living field. Your lineage is a living story, and your body is the bridge between the two. When you shift one, you can shift them all. So if this podcast resonates with you, please share it with a friend who also might resonate. Please rate, review, and follow me. You can rate and review on Apple, on Spotify, add a few kind words, and then follow me on all of my social media channels. It's Sandy K Nutrition everywhere. Thank you so much for being here. Also, if you want to get in touch, just email me, sandy@sandyknutrition.ca. Thank you for being here. See you next week. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Be sure to share it with someone you know might benefit. And always remember, when you rate, review, subscribe, you help to support my content and help me to keep going and bringing these conversations to you each and every week. Join me next week for a new topic, new guest, new exciting conversations to help you live your best life.